Hello and welcome to Gilli Pong Analysis. Here I am to analyze stuff, as you might have heard in the intro. I'm going to continue my analysis of this debate made by Jimbob and Mike Brigandi. Mike Brigandi is the one who is looking at the atheism part, defending atheism, while made by Jimbob is on the Christian Christian sides. It's not theology versus or theism versus atheism. It's more Christianity versus atheism. This is I'm gonna go a little bit back because I'm gonna try to get made by Jimbob's full intro. So let's just go into it.
God's people. Animal suffering is also another major issue, as Christianity
states that all actions, thoughts, evaluations, and propositions are merely effects of the previous.
Let me see a little bit here.
Take a
Get
look
a little
at the
back
worldview.
here. Let's go back. Made by Jimbob.
Your opening statement. Go ahead.
All right, thanks.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, tonight, as you heard, atheism versus Christianity. These are combative worldview.
I don't know what's going on.
And because they're worldviews, from each of our positions, we're critiquing the other's position. And so if we take a look at the worldview Mike is coming from in order to critique Christianity, we need to examine that to see if it's actually coherent itself. My opponent's worldview states that all actions, thoughts, evaluations, and propositions are merely effects of the previous material causes. From this view, we're all just mechanisms producing outcomes entirely determined by the natural processes. This includes what we believe. This includes what we think is true. This includes the methodology that we swear is the methodology for gaining truth. Well, if this is granted, there is no real purpose of the debate tonight, because whatever my opponent says, he was determined to say it. However I respond, I was determined to respond. And you, the audience, you only have the illusion of carefully considering the positions in question tonight. After all, you're all just a bunch of material cogs at the effect of sounds and inputs you call arguments. My opponent may say, no, just because it's all determined by the laws of physics and chemistry, it doesn't mean we can't come to truth, to which I respond. You were just determined to say that. He will say, no, we can evaluate inputs, to which I will respond. Your evaluation itself is determined as an output by previous inputs. Any tests, any methods, any verification, any invalidation, all outputs in a universally determined machine he calls reality. Now, I hope you already see the problem here. If a worldview and all of its methodologies are mere effects of matter in motion, to ask which one is true would be equivalent to asking who has truer molecules. It would be like looking at two different engines and asking which of their exhaust plumes are the true plumes. My opponent...
Okay. So he's reaching it from the perspective of, okay, I'm not going to go into the defense here of defending Christianity versus atheism. That's usually how these debates go, in my opinion. I've watched a few of them. It's always the atheist attacking the Christian theist by forcing them to figure out how to make their case that God exists and all that stuff. So I see that Made by Jimbob is actually just going on to the attack by looking at the worldview Mike Brigandi has and pointing out the flaws in the worldview, where if there's no meaning, if we're just random matter floating through their space, colliding, then creating evolution, and it's all randomly made, and the fittest survive, and there doesn't seem to be any foundation for truth. Truth doesn't come from anywhere except from the randomness. So, therefore, nothing that Mike Brigandi can say without telling us where does he get truth from, where is truth in this worldview he has. So it's a kind of a good tactic, I feel.
Opponent will make knowledge impossible because his view can't account for the mind. Now, he said, I don't believe in anything until I have evidence. There's no evidence of this mind that's independent of causes that makes evaluations and comes to truth. So without a mind, there's no knowledge. There's no knowledge. Knowledge is dependent on a mind. The naturalistic worldview, the atheistic worldview cannot tell you what a mind is. The other consequence of my opponent's view is that he has no justification for claiming we ought to value truth. What if we granted Christianity was a mass delusion? From his view, because he's a naturalist, the view itself, coming to one view or the other, is just a natural consequence of the process, right? That's all. So there's no claim there's no justification from the naturalist to say we ought to value truth or come to true positions, because all positions are equal under the view that we're just machines spouting out sounds in the form of what we believe are arguments or.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So he's pointing to the fact that even if Mike Brigandi's theories are true, why is there Christianity? Even if it's just a mass delusion, why is Christianity giving us good and evil? Some kind of a barometer of what is good to do and what is bad to do. And therefore figure out what truth really is. Isn't that just the part of kind of like the evolutional progress or process? Yeah, it's kind of interesting how he words it. It kind of puts Mike Brigandi in a certain kind of back seat. He needs to go back into the front seat, try to figure out how to drive this debate. It's very smart by Jimbob here.
Worldviews. Any position a person comes to, they were simply determined to come to it. In fact, there is no they. There's just it's. Under my opponent's view, they or you or me, we're all it's. We're cogs in a machine at the effect of physical law. So anytime my opponent presents some incredulity, let's say toward Christianity or something like this, just remember, regarding my beliefs or his beliefs, keep in mind, according to his own view, he was determined to oppose them. And I was determined to hold them as true. This is cause. This is causal. You can't stop law, right? If a worldview or position makes knowledge impossible, then from what epistemic foundation can they even begin to critique my view or any other view? If we all held my opponent's view, the title of this debate could just as well be Natural Effects.
Natural effects, let's see.
Versus other natural effects. Which one?
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the things that I've been trying to figure out myself here. So I'm going to try to grab a certain understanding here. So transcendental arguments. So you have ethics, metaphysics, epistemology, and logic. If we go into metaphysics, fundamental nature of reality. The first principles of being or existence. Identity, change, space and time, cause and effect, necessity, actuality, and possibility. These are metaphysics. Ethics or moral philosophy, like being a moral human being or person, is a branch of philosophy that involves systemizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. Just a summary. And then we have, let me see. Epistemology, the four core areas of epistemology. Philosophical analysis of the nature of knowledge and the conditions required for belief to constitute knowledge. Truth, justification. Second core field, potential sources of knowledge and justified belief, such as perception, reason, memory, testimony. And then the third core is the structure of a body of knowledge or justified belief, including whether all justified beliefs must be derived from justified foundational beliefs, or whether justification requires only a coherent set of beliefs. And then the fourth is philosophical skepticism, which questions the possibility of knowledge and related problems, such as whether skepticism poses a threat to our ordinary knowledge claims, and whether it's possible to refute skeptical arguments. And then we have logic, like formal logic and informal logic. For instance, Mike Brigandi is a man. That's a logical claim. All men are mortal. Therefore, Mike Brigandi is mortal. Then it's a logical deduction from the things. And logic is like engineering and being a programmer and like they work with logic. So I feel like Jimbob is going into the field of things that are very hard to materially measure or empirically prove, because they are the foundations we use to prove things.
One is true. So why would it matter whether or not a worldview is true, including Christianity, if there are just epiphenomenal effects of matter in motion? My opponent will say he has no reason to believe in God. I would say you have no reason to believe in your own reasoning. It's just matter in motion. So the question is, did Mike come here today with his own will, with his own mind, with his own beliefs, with his own argumentation? Or is he just a machine at the effect of previous dominoes falling? He has to accept the latter because that is his position. So from that position, why would you even argue the truth of another worldview? Why would truth matter? How would you even get to...
So he's steel manning Mike Brigandi's argument. But it's going to feel like being straw manned. Because you it's like you're going into battle and you're meeting your opponent, and you take off his armor and then you take off his sword and you just leave him with a little spoon. Fight me!
Discerning the truthfulness of two different positions. Put it this way. If my brain is a machine and it spouts out exactly what it's supposed to given the inputs, and his brain is a machine and it spits something else out, how could we possibly come to know which one's true if any methodology you offer is just more machines in motion doing what they lawfully do? So from this position, I could have came here as a Muslim. I could have come here as some sort of new age hippie who believed in, like, starseed people. It wouldn't actually matter if you're debating a naturalist, an atheist that holds Mike's position. Why? All of the views are equally valuable and equally useful, because all they are the effects. They are the smoke coming out of a biological engine we call the body and the brain. From that view, how could you argue? How could you even debate? I mean, there's no point in even debating from the view he holds, because there's no ultimate purpose to get to something truer. And that's my time.
All right, thank you for that opening statement, Jimbob. Before we get into it, I want to remind everybody one more time, if you want to send in your super chats, I will be showing them on screen as...
This is the fundamental kind of understanding you have to have in order to be able to debate. And the fundamental understanding is, what is your foundation of knowledge? Is the knowledge coming from somewhere that you experienced yourself and you've learned? Or is it something that you have read somewhere and you are basing it based on someone else's opinion? And I feel like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and on and on and on. The knowledge that they are basing their foundation of is lies. They're lying to themselves in order to be able to argue against something. And what I mean by that is it's not like they're just intentionally lying. That's not what I mean here. It's like when you're a technical engineer and you're trying to lie to everyone about what you're doing, you're going to make bad technical stuff. It's not going to work. You have to be honest. You have to be very fair towards you. Like, how are you going to make things work together? And I think that's the reason why Jesus Christ was a carpenter in this story of Jesus Christ. You know, you have to be honest. You can't build a house on sand. And because the foundation is gonna, and that's a metaphor. That's an analogy of how we can build our understanding of life. Now, the atheists are going to say, hey, everything that you're talking about is lies. You know, the Bible, all the religious texts from Sri Yukteswar, from the Bhagavad Gita, from all these different places on the planet where people have been logically trying to prove God. But the Christians, like he is just doing, have a reason, have a foundation that is God, that has given us the reason, the logic, the metaphysics, the things that the atheist, skeptical person cannot prove using their way of reasoning. I just wanted to go through these two arguments. I don't want to really go into the full debate. I think you should just go to this site, watch it for yourself. It's fun, and you can see how difficult it is to conceptualize what they're talking about. It's very hard, because Mike Brigandi goes on a full defense and attacks Jimbob for being unfair and having this playbook of how to debate. And so you know, I highly recommend you go to this, and I will link it in the description below. But I'm also going to go into another thing here. It is one thing that I have learned while going through all of this, and I just want to show you a little clip here. And I think I can find just this little clip here. Hopefully. I haven't researched it, but let's see. Yeah, it's 2 minutes long. Just watch this, and then you understand what I'm talking about. Because you can so easily judge me and go into an ad hominem attack about I'm just a bullshitter and blah, 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 blah. Let's not go there. I am not here to try to tell you that I'm 100% correct. My standpoint is I have gone through my life having a certain belief system that atheism is. It's a belief system. No matter how hard you try to disprove that, and they have tried. They've used a lot of cool analogies of how to prove that to everyone, that they don't believe that. It's the lack of belief. Whatever. But the belief system that they try to ignore and therefore lie about is this. You just go into it.
You need to call it faith. You'd say just evidence. And when you said that faith in relativity, in Einstein's theory of relativity, is evidence-based, that of course it is. But the evidence is all important. I mean, Einstein's predictions fit in with observed fact and with a whole body of theory, whereas we only need to use the word faith when there isn't any evidence.
No, not at all. I presume you've got faith in your wife. Is there any evidence for that?
Yes,
on which you
plenty.
base it? Yes.
Plenty of evidence. let's generalize it. Never mind about my wife. Let's generalize.
It's the same with mine, Richard. It's the same with mine.
Let's say that in general, how do we know that somebody loves us? Okay.
Yes.
You can use a word faith for that if you like, but it's not the right use of the word. Because,
Oh, it is.
Because you know why your wife loves you because of all sorts of little signs, little catches in the voice, little looks in the eye. That's the evidence that
Yes,
that's
that's
evidence.
right.
That's perfectly good evidence. That's not faith.
Yes, it is.
Well, okay, then we're coming down to pure semantics.
I think you've been influenced too much by Kant, you see.
Not explicitly, I have to say. Okay, let's.
You see how awkward
let's
this
go on.
becomes. It's like when you're confronted with something that you cannot have any evidence for, then you go into this belief system. And how I have come to learn about these atheists is that they have a belief system and they go to debates with their belief system and then they're fighting that they don't have a belief system. I highly recommend this also, Richard Dawkins versus John Lennox, where the moderator is just going through the God Delusion book, talks about excerpts, and then John Lennox kind of refutes and argues against his ideas. And John Lennox, that's a wonderful guy. It's just like the perfect grandfather to your children. I would recommend. But anyway, this was a short one, I hope. But let's see if you like it or not. In any case, just let's glow. It's time to shine. And ha. And
Gilli Pong.
Analyses.